GOAT district, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offers the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
What is up, Fantasyland? Welcome back to the GOAT District, where winners come to hang. And happy Cinco de Mayo to anyone listening and watching. And to my boys, Dan, Theo, how are you guys?
Doing great, man. How are you, JD?
Good, man. Good. Just recovering from the vax shot from a couple of days ago. Yesterday knocked me on my butt. Had the shakes, stood in the shower for a half hour, a little hot water, went to bed, slept it off. Now I'm kind of good to go, running off of Advil and that goodness. But Theo, man, how you doing, brother?
I'm great. I'm excited. We have the NFL draft behind us. We have a lot of clarity on the guys we've been talking about for months now. And, we have our rookie drafts, some going on now, some this weekend. So it's an awesome, awesome time for fantasy football.
Such a fun time, man. There's so much going on.
Yes.
And tonight, and that's why tonight we make it a huge show. And tonight you're not going to want to miss this show. You're going to want to listen through. Grab your pen and paper, get ready for your rookie drafts with tonight's show. And that's why we bring in a huge guest. We've seen the NFL draft. It's finally passed by. These rookies have landing spots now. We have a lot of new information. We've had a bit of time to digest. Obviously things are going to change as we move through this offseason. But look, we're talking rising stars with these rookies. This guy, to me, is a rising star in the industry. Theo, you managed to work some magic. Your people worked it with his people. We got it done. Welcome to the GOAT District, Mr. Josh Larky.
Thanks for having me. I mean, what an introduction. That makes me feel good. So it's just going to be downhill from here. So I'm ready to talk some football with you guys. Let's do this.
We're just hoping that introduction will cut your appearance fee just a little bit. So.
Wish my soundboard was working right now, but we'll get that fixed for next time. Josh, we appreciate you hanging with us tonight. For those who don't know yet, which I doubt are it's probably a few number, but it's at J Larky, Larky tweets. Make sure you follow him out there on Twitter. Make sure you sign up to Codebreaker, which is part of the player profiler,
Roto Underworld Radio.
Roto,
it's a mouthful.
Yeah. Help me, bro.
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody knows where to find the show, but make sure you're out there following Josh. And Josh, let me just ask you, Director of Analytics at Player Profiler and Roto Underworld, what exactly does that mean to those listening?
So I'm involved with everything from the rankings to I write deep dive articles for the site. I do the Codebreaker podcast. Some recent articles I've written was a big best ball strategy article for Underdog Fantasy, a large piece on the history of Pro Day and Combine 40 times and why that player pro we do an adjustment on Pro Day 40 times. So just so people can understand the numbers behind that, as well as background research. So a lot of any type of big research that goes on with Player Profiler or Roto Underworld, there's a decent chance that I have my hands in that to some extent. And then also at Breakout Finder, I do all the statistical modeling for the breakout ratings for the Breakout Finder app. So I would say that I'm fairly well versed with the running backs and receivers when it comes to what type of metrics matter for these rookies. Quarterbacks and tight ends potentially coming in the future. But for now, I'm more of the running back and receiver guy. We're halfway there. And then
Right.
just other odd jobs, whatever I can do to fit 50, 60 plus hours each week into some type of fantasy football work. I try and do that. So that's kind of the gist of what a director of analytics might be doing on any given day or week.
So it sounds like you do a lot of this stuff I don't understand. So I appreciate that for bringing all that information to guys like me who you kind of get it on the other end, right?
Yeah, it turns out that when you're built like Tutu Atwell, like I am, 5'9", 160, there's a very good chance you're not going to run a 4.4 and be a star in college. And that's kind of what I was. Didn't play any kind of college football, nothing like that. I played a year in high school. I was more of the flag football warrior. So this was kind of a natural path for me to take all my football interest and football knowledge and try and apply it somewhere useful where hopefully I have a higher ceiling in the analytics world than I did in the actual playing football world, which was incredibly low.
See, Josh and I have the opposite problem. I'm 5'9". I'm built like an offensive lineman, except I'm 5'9".
See, Dan, I think the screen makes you seem tall. I always thought you were taller, so the screen's doing something for you.
It's all about how you have the camera set, baby.
There you go. There you go. All about
It's all about the angles.
Yep.
There you go, Josh. You'll learn that for the new improved setup.
Yep.
Now, talk to us quickly about that our coding site.
So I went to grad school to learn how to code. I tried to learn a little bit on my own, and it was really difficult. There's not a lot of good, free, or inexpensive online resources out there. And one thing that I noticed in grad school, and I noticed it too in college when I started taking a couple coding foundation courses, the way that 99% of coding courses are taught is in class, it makes total sense. Baby steps. And then you get a homework assignment and it's just like, holy shit, what am I doing? Nothing I learned in class is even going to get remotely applied to this homework assignment. And you're up all night Googling for answers. And quite frankly, that's just not efficient. Why not when someone's learning a new coding language? Just like if you learn Spanish or French or one of these other languages, you actually get baby steps the entire time. And they don't just say, okay, here's Shakespeare translated into this language. Time for you to learn it. So that's kind of what I tried to do with my course is baby step people and actually just give you the answers more and more as you learn the basic foundational concepts. And I don't really make you think too much until you already have that basic knowledge down. And that's a big fundamental thing that I really wanted to make with my course. And then the other one is that all of the data sets that you use to learn for coding and analytics are football data sets because the numbers come to life. And if you enjoy what you're learning, you're going to learn it faster. You're going to be more likely to learn it on your own because it's a virtual course. So you have to motivate yourself. So if you don't enjoy what you're doing, then you're never going to take the class. So I knew that I wanted it to be more interesting data sets because I learned with credit card fraud data, it's not very fun. I couldn't care less. I'm just going to swipe a credit card and just roll the dice. I don't know why I have to analyze that. So I kind of wanted it to be fun data. And then I didn't want people to spend 4 hours a night Googling for information because that's just not efficient. So those are the two things that I worked really hard to help my course stand out in, where I drew upon my grad school experience and what I thought could be better about it. So thatrcodingsite.com if you want to learn to code for R and analytics.
That's awesome, man. So guys, go check Josh out, Codebreaker, thatrcodingsite.com. Just bringing a lot of goodness to the industry and to tonight. And before we dive into it, shout out to J Mike out there in the chat box, throwing out the flames for our guest tonight for sure. Guys, subscribe, give us a little like, nudge, a little subscribe, a little reminder setting whenever we drop the shows ahead of time, just so you guys can not miss anything. We appreciate any of that. Theo, I'm going to go to you, man. You stepped up. You know, Josh is talking about stepping up. You stepped up while I was down taking a beating yesterday, and you lined up some pretty nice questions. So why don't you start this off with number one and what it sounds like might even be Josh's number one.
So We'll start right off the top. We want to hear your thoughts on Travis Etienne. I know you're a huge fan of his and the impact he's going to have in the NFL. What do you think about his landing spot, and how do you think he's going to do in Jacksonville?
So the Etienne landing spot and reaction to it is honestly just a total head scratcher. You would think people would be jumping up and down in the streets. Shower narrative. A college quarterback and running back that were both elite at what they did, reuniting in the NFL on the same team, both taken in the first round. Is that a storybook kind of transition, or is that a storybook transition? So right off the bat, you would think that alone would just get narrative Twitter excited. But no. Didn't get people excited. Not quite sure why. It's an ascending offense. It's ascending O-line. That's what you want in Dynasty, is you want a team that you think is going to be competent for the next 3 to 5 years, which is kind of the lifespan of these running backs in terms of their Dynasty value and when you're trying to, or hoping that you'll be able to start them. So it's a very favorable 3 to 5 year outlook for this franchise. He's going to be playing with Trevor Lawrence every single year that he's in Jacksonville. So the 4 or 5 plus years that he's there, he'll be with his college quarterback. And then also, if we just look at Etienne, the prospect, why is he not the best PPR fantasy prospect since Saquon? If you were to build a guy in a lab, you would just crank, like if we had Madden ratings, you would just crank receptions to 99 for a running back. That's really what you want to score fantasy points. And that's what Etienne gives you. His college receptions, target share, it's all off the charts. So I really don't understand how people aren't more excited about him. And I'll give you a little quick parallel in terms of why the receptions are important. So if we look at Jonathan Taylor versus DeAndre Swift last year, many might not realize that Jonathan Taylor had less than 1 fantasy point per game more than Swift. They were almost dead even. It was 15.3 per game for Taylor, 14.5 for Swift. Basically identical. We all know who got a lot more work overall, but Swift had 3.5 catches a game. And that's why there's such a stable floor and such a tantalizing ceiling with Etienne. So I cannot stress enough how he is the 101 in any type of one quarterback leagues. I don't understand it. It's a head scratcher that people aren't worshipping the landing spot and the prospect in Etienne.
I think that's awesome. And then what do you see his year one impact in Jacksonville being? Do you buy into it all? I know the answer to this, but do you buy into it all, him losing work to Robinson and Hyde?
I mean, if we define losing work that he's not going to be on the field 100% of the time, then sure. Do I expect him to be 2019 Christian McCaffrey and be on the field for 98% of the snaps? No, I'm realistic. But just imagine if he's on the field 50 to 60% of the time, he's going to be heavily utilized when on the field. He's going to get a lot of that passing down work, which we want. And even in a bad scenario where he's treated kind of like DeAndre Swift was treated last year. And remember, DeAndre Swift averaged pretty much the same amount of fantasy points per game as Taylor. And Swift basically didn't play the first 5 weeks of the season. He would have 2 carries and 3 targets or something. Just imagine this is now a first round pick. We assume that they're not going to egregiously misuse him the first month of the season like they did Swift. This guy could have 225 fantasy points with very limited usage still. He could get 150 carries, less than 10 a game, and 60 targets. And right there, he can crest 200 fantasy points. I
think Josh
rocket up the actual total fantasy points when they're used. I'm cutting out. Am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Yeah, you cut out.
You guys hear me again? My internet's. Yeah, so just in summary, Swift doesn't even need heavy usage. He can lose some work to Robinson. I'm not even sure if he's going to lose that much work, but theoretically, even if he does even a 50% opportunity share or 50% of the total touches, he's going to be getting the right kind of touches that we want, where it's work in the passing game. And that right there justifies taking him 101, just knowing that he's going to be good at the very minimum year one. And then as he gets more integrated, I mean, we could be looking at the next Alvin Kamara type prospect right here, where he's getting 175 to 200 rushes a season and around 100 targets. It could be incredible.
That was literally the name I was going to ask you. If from what you're saying and what I've been, I'm not the biggest college guy, but just from what you're giving me here, AK seems like kind of maybe the ceiling, but a good possibility.
Yeah. And that even if he doesn't hit the ceiling of Kamara, he doesn't need to return value as the 101 in this draft. I mean, Kamara was literally the best running back in fantasy football last year. So if we know that this is the archetype of player, the ceiling is the best running back in fantasy. And then the floor is Nyheim Hines from last year, who actually gets rushing work as well. Nyheim Hines had nearly 200 fantasy points last year, quietly. He was an RB2. And he barely was running the ball. So just imagine Nyheim Hines with some goal line carries as like the Stone Min floor for ETN. So it's really just a dream situation into your lap at the 103, 104.
And that ceiling is important. I keep Dan and I are in the DMs because we're in a bunch of rookie drafts right now. And when we're deciding on guys, like I'm taking the guy with the higher ceiling. I'm drafting a rookie for ceiling. I'm not drafting to be safe or, you know what I mean? Like I want ceiling. I don't care about floor. I want some floor if I can kind of get a bit of security, but we're talking rookies. So the floor is kind of, to me, it's all about the ceiling. So I love that you're saying that about Etienne. I showed you, I got him at the 109 in a super flex. Josh is shaking his head for those just listening. But
I pity your league mates right now.
And he's going. I picked up Chase at 105 after the 4 quarterbacks went, and that was just I have Burrow. I'm not competing this year, but he came to me at 109. I was really surprised. I'll be honest, but I'm hearing him going at the 108, 109 kind of range right now.
Yeah, me too. It's what I've been seeing. I think one good example of the kind of guy that just doesn't have like the archetype that doesn't have the ceiling is the running backs that don't catch passes. Look at Derrick Henry last year. One of the 5 or so most historic rushing seasons in NFL history. Nearly 20 touchdowns, over 2,000 rushing yards. And he was the RB3. He couldn't, this wasn't the RB1, this wasn't the RB2. And he had the most historic rushing season that we've had the past decade. So that's really just, I think that's a good example of if you're shooting for the next Derrick Henry, that this guy doesn't even have RB1 in his range of outcomes.
Interesting. Yeah, makes sense. So what would you say to the people who have Najee Harris as their top running back in this class? What are they missing?
So if you're really if you're trying to compete for this season and you're in ultimate contender mode, I don't think it's a big drop off from Etienne to Harris. In my redraft and best ball rankings, I do have Najee Harris over Etienne because it really just seems like there's no way for Najee Harris to not get all the touches in year one. But what I would say is look at the situation there. This is a bottom 5 offensive line. An aging quarterback that had Tommy John came back from it and did not look good. And there were rumors of him getting benched for Mason Rudolph at points last year because of how incompetent he looked. So if you have kind of this potential quarterback purgatory going forward, I mean, Dwayne Haskins could be Najee Harris's quarterback in 2022. And with how good their defense is, you're not necessarily looking at the Steelers winning 4 games. So they're not really in the conversation for a top pick the next couple seasons. So who do they replace Roethlisberger with? It really could be Haskins.
That's a good point.
So that's what worries me is the bad O-line. And then I know everyone kind of thinks this Roethlisberger is this incredible quarterback still, but he's just not at this point. So it's kind of the quarterback O-line, really good defense to keep them from getting a high pick in future drafts. So that trio of a confluence of factors is why I would give the edge to ETN and why I would urge people to do the same. But again, I still have them close in my just general what I project for their overall lifetime value. And if you're just dead set on winning this year, sure, take Harris. He's going to get 250 carries this year. I understand it.
Yeah, it's a volume game at that point. I know you and Ray JQ should do like a head-to-head for who the 101 should be.
We should.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of see Najee Harris's 2021 season being like a combo of David Montgomery's 2019 efficiency with 2020 workload, where Najee is going to be a lot more involved in the passing game than a Montgomery, which is kind of like what Monty ended up in 2020 when Cohen went down. But with that 2019 efficiency where it's just not a good offense. It's a bad O-line. So I think you can kind of put those together and you're kind of backing your way into like a low-end RB1, high-end RB2 for 2021.
Yeah, just sort of the brute force, touches.
And Dan, I was just going to say, if Matt doesn't want to host the head-to-head, we'll host it here on the district for sure.
There we go.
Dan's got a referee jersey he's dying to throw on.
I would like that. Yes. Yeah, I know Ray has ETN RB3. So it would be a fun one because of our big value disparity that we see there. So, and there also me being the analytics guy, him being the film guy, there's just a lot going on there that I think is interesting for people because we could not be on more opposite ends with the way we see the game and then how we rank those top three. So I think it'd be fun. Yeah,
definitely for sure. So we've talked about two of the top three. We might as well talk about the third one. Give us the Javonte Williams take, and where do you slot him? Because most people don't have him up with the other two running backs, but they've got him kind of mixed into that that tier of wide receivers. With Waddle and Devonta Smith and guys like that. How are you seeing Javonte Williams? Do you think that's right or wrong to drop him down a tier?
So I would drop him down a tier from Etienne and Harris. I would still rank him over all the wide receivers not named Jamar Chase. There's just no one that has kind of that flawless profile after Chase or necessarily like the obvious ceiling. And I don't think Javonte Williams is the greatest prospect in the world, but early second round draft capital, we know what that means. He's going to get work. It's a good offensive line. He's only 21. He's the youngest of the big three by quite a bit. I think he's a year younger than ETN, 2 years younger than Harris. So I think he's a good dynasty prospect. He's not someone that I'm getting super excited about, but he looks like a very usable RB2, potentially lucking into an RB1 season with touchdowns. So, I mean, I'm fine with him. He's not someone I'm excited to grab, but I do think that after him, there is a tier break. It's just that if Javonte Williams were in last year's class, then he's clearly outside the big five from last year, in my opinion, if that makes any sense. Whereas Etienne and Harris are in that conversation with those five, however you want to order them.
Yeah.
I did like how Denver traded up to get ahead of Miami to grab Javonte. I thought that was, I thought that was a positive for him. I think they're going to have a real role for him. And, like you said, I think it's a drop off from ETN to him, but I think he's become a little more intriguing with that landing spot.
Yeah, you could also, if you want to play the narrative game, you could say Lindsey looked great and they bring in Melvin Gordon and replace him, and Melvin Gordon immediately got all the touches. So then you could say, well, at this point, they got their guy again, just like they got Melvin Gordon the year before. Why aren't they just going to give Javonte Williams the preferential treatment right out of the gate? So I can understand that argument. I can see the case for why he can actually have a pretty good year one. But I'm more excited about him long-term once Gordon's out of there.
Do you think Gordon will be on the roster for week one?
Yeah, I think so. I don't really see why he wouldn't be. I don't know. It's just, to me, the year one Denver backfield is kind of a stay away just because I don't think it's the highest upside situation in the world, even if one guy gets the touches. We saw that last year with Melvin Gordon, where it's just kind of, Melvin Gordon's not going to lose you many weeks, but he's also not really winning you a lot of weeks. So it's just hard for me to see that year one upside unless they have a quarterback upgrade, which it seems like it was all smoke with the Rodgers talk. So At this point,
Yeah.
it's probably Teddy B or Mr. Locke, which is none of us are excited about that.
Javonte Williams or Tony Pollard?
Javonte Williams. Pollard still just, I mean, that Zeke contract is massive. It's hard for them to get out of it. And I mean, Zeke was really good with Dak in the O-line, which doesn't necessarily mean that he's a good running back, but I think the Cowboys kind of view him that way, where Zeke's very good at holding up with a lot of touches. So it seems like that's what they want, is just to feed him. So I think this year and next year, Zeke's going to be the guy for at least the next 2 years. And while, yeah, Pollard has that incredible upside if Zeke truly flames out and can't stop fumbling or gets injured, I would rather bet on Javonte. I think there's a much, much higher chance Javonte's an RB2 than Pollard becomes the guy in Dallas.
Okay. What are we talked about the 3 running back? Give us maybe 2 or 3 of your favorite rookies in this class right now.
So I really like Rondale Moore. I think he's just such a fun prospect. And we haven't really seen a guy like him before. He's just so unique. And I generally stay away from outliers, which is why I haven't been clamoring to grab Devonta Smith, even though some of his production metrics are incredible. And what's different about Rondale Moore compared to pretty much every other guy out there is that he has this unique combination of being undersized at 5'7", but incredibly stocky. He's over 180. He put up like 16 or 17 reps on the bench press, or 20 reps, 25 reps. I don't remember. It was something ridiculous at 180 pounds. He squats 600 pounds when he was 18 years old entering college. He had 1,500 scrimmage yards as an 18-year-old true freshman at Purdue. So there's just so many aspects of his profile that are outlier-ish, but the early production at age 18 is what I really like. That shows that, you know what, sure, he might have been undersized, but facing physically more mature players who are more experienced and bigger than him, he crushed it as a rookie. Or as a freshman. So why isn't he going to crush it as a rookie year 2 player and beyond? So I think he could have a much quicker transition than some people are giving him credit for as a gadget guy, because we've already seen him do it when going from high school to college. So I'd say like he's really my guy in that sense. And then the other one is Anthony Schwartz. I really like these dynamic players. It's just like Rondale Moore. I love the guys that are getting used creatively. Schwartz is super young. He doesn't turn 21 until the season starts. He's a big caliber hunter. He had 350 receiving yards, over 200 rush yards as a true freshman at age 18 with 5 rushing touchdowns. That's exactly the kind of interesting usage where they're scheming him touches that you want. And he's really got that home run hitting ability running in the high 4.2s. So I really like him. Getting him like late round 2 to early round 3, just kind of depending. We'll see where everything shakes out ultimately. But I think he has a lot of upside, especially on an aging Browns depth chart where Odell and Landry, these are not young players. So, I mean, something could happen to either one of them. It happened to Odell last year. So I'm really bullish on Schwartz.
He made it to 310 just in a Superflex rookie draft. I just kind of finished here.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean,
nice value.
Why not push the button?
Yeah.
And even if you're not a Schwartz person, he's probably going to have 1 or 2 big games as a rookie. You can always sell him off then. There's just a lot of ways to handle him where I think he just has more upside and more spike week potential to get people excited and get him on your radar than a lot of the other guys that are going to be going in that range, where chances are they're not going to have any exciting games or any period where people in your league are truly excited and Googling him and searching for him to see which team is Schwartz. Like, people are actually going to say like which team is Schwartz on at some point this year or next year. So that's what I like about him.
I like it. So two nice receivers there. Now, guys, any rookies that actually let me ask Josh and we'll throw it around. Is there anyone that lost value for you? Is there someone that you kind of like coming into the rookie draft and just because of landing spot, either you're off completely or if that's not a thing, you're just maybe more inclined to go a different direction if the opportunity comes up?
you want me to take this one first?
Yeah.
I'm batting lead off for this one.
We'll let Dan and Theo chime in after that.
So I did a little research before this just to have some concrete numbers behind it. Rashad Bateman's landing spot, it did scare me. I was very high on him pre-draft. Yeah, his pro day was disappointing that he's actually built like Calvin Ridley and that he's not 6'2", 210, but he was 6 foot 190. It's a pretty big difference. I mean, if I lost 2 inches and 20 pounds, I'd be 5'7", 140. My ceiling is really low then if I'm 5'7", 140. I don't think there's any precedent for that. But I pulled up the Ravens pass attempts last year. Are they probably going to go up? Sure. But if we just take that number for what it is, 406 pass attempts as a team, a 20% target share in that offense is 81 targets. And 20% is a big target share. And 81 targets is not getting me out of bed in the morning. And to put that in perspective, the Steelers had 656 pass attempts last year. So if you have a 20% target share in that offense, it's not 81 targets. It's 131 targets. So right there, 131 targets. You could be a wide receiver 1. A.J. Brown can be a high-end wide receiver 1 with that volume. 81 targets. Nobody other than maybe a tight end is going to finish top 10 at their position with 81 targets. So yeah, that's kind of cherry picking, but with the 400-ish pass attempts, if you want Bateman to actually have 130 targets and be an elite wide receiver 1, he would need a 33% target share, which is like peak Michael Thomas or peak Devontae Adams. And I don't think any of us think that's a likely range of outcome for him. So because of that, he really is worrisome to me, where suddenly he looks a lot more like a floor play as the clear wide receiver 1 rather than any type of ceiling play where, yeah, he's probably going to be the number 1 option, but what is he walking into? 60 to 90 targets? It's not that exciting.
Yeah, and probably you're going to be able to get him cheaper, at the end of this year or beginning of next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very true.
The usual rookie receiver path in a lot of cases anyways. Theo, anyone that lost value for you in this draft?
Well, I had 2 guys who have been kind of favorites of mine. Kenneth Gainwell, dropping into the 5th round was very disappointing for me. I had hopes he would land with somebody, on day 2. And now instead of going into even a situation like, the Jets or the Falcons, he lands in Philly where he's clearly behind Miles Sanders. And I think that not only does he lose value, but it potentially takes away some value from Miles Sanders. I think Gainwell makes, Boston Scott irrelevant, and they'll use him as the handcuff, so to speak, and he'll get some passing down work. But he certainly loses a little shine. He goes from a guy that would have been, a 2nd-round pick in rookie drafts to a guy that you can get now in the 3rd. He's worth taking some shots on, but it was disappointing for me. And Tylan Wallace, who, if we're disappointed about Rashad Bateman ending up in Baltimore as the wide receiver 1, then we are, mortified by the idea of Tylan Wallace ending up in Baltimore as the, the wide receiver 3. He's done. So I think it's a good lesson that, draft capital matters. And when on the fringe guys that we all kind of like and we project, they certainly lose a lot of shine after they go later in the draft. So those were big disappointments for me. I had Tylan Wallace actually in the 14th round of one of these Triflex RotoViz FFPC startups, but I was actually able to add Ethan Schwartz and Josh Palmer after the draft happened. So I kind of made up for that a little bit with some, rookies were a little bit excited about the landing spot. So those were my 2 guys.
Danny boy, you got anybody that lost a bit of value?
Yeah, for sure. Like at tight end, Brevin Jordan was somebody I held out a lot of hope for. I thought he might go a little bit higher than he did. I was hoping he would, maybe sneak into the 3rd round or early 4th or something like that. And, the best thing that happened is he went to Houston where there's some wide open opportunity. So I don't hate that. And, for that same reason, like Nico Collins, I was hoping, might go a little bit higher, but he also ended up in Houston. So, there's some, obviously, Houston's going to be a tire fire this year. But wide open opportunity like that, that's a place where you can at least hope that, they're going to put these guys out there and see what they can do this year, rather than them being, stuck behind established veterans or whatever. So, I think there's some good with the bad on them. And I was actually one of the ones I was kind of interested to see where they landed was Josh Palmer, and him landing in the Chargers was actually a pretty good thing, and with some decent draft capital. So he kind of went the other way for me. I was expecting that he would probably be one of those guys I'd be disappointed in when the draft was over, and it actually turned out he ended up in a nice spot with some decent draft capital.
So since Dan stole my thunder as usual, just always taking the
hey,
rug.
I left you the maple chub. So
no, well, I'm going the other way. Honestly, I'm gonna do the. I'm in Toronto, man. I gotta flex the Canucks, right? I mean, Josh Palmer loved the landing spot out there in Charger land. Nothing to add there. I mean, young quarterback, good opportunity, not much in front of him. I picked him up earlier. You guys gave me the thumbs up. Josh gave me the thumbs up on that, so that felt good. But with Chuba, I mean, the maple chub, or Chuba. Somebody, you guys told me it was Chuba, right? I was calling it
Chuba.
I was saying it wrong. I'll say anything wrong, man. It's the French in me. But I don't hate the landing spot. I mean, anywhere you have like a running back who's taken on that much volume at a position that, injuries are huge. We saw it last year with Mike Davis coming in, and I mean, look at what Mike Davis did, in that offense. So I kind of like that he comes in as a young rookie, doesn't need to be the guy first year. I mean, I don't think that anyone thought he would go somewhere and be the guy, but you thought maybe he was going to be part of more of a community RB by committee. But I like the fit. I like the spot. To me, this Carolina offense, I mean, Randy's in our DMs blowing up Darnold on a daily basis. But I mean, you look at all the pieces in Carolina, and that offense, to me, whether Darnold's the guy or not, you would think is trending upwards, and being a part of that with a young, he's a nice depth piece is kind of my input on it. Same with Palmer. These are guys you add, later in the drafts, and they're nice depth pieces on your dynasty rosters. Maybe not this year, but next 2 or 3 years, maybe they pop for you.
And I thought we could follow that up with, we talked about Rondell Moore and Andy Schwartz as two guys you love, Josh. Is there any guys that are elevated by their landing spots? Seems like those two guys, you like the profile. Is there any guys that, that maybe we didn't touch on that you love the landing spot?
Yeah, I'll add Dwayne Eskridge to that list. He's a prospect that I might have been a little above consensus on when all was said and done. When I had my initial wide receiver rankings out, I was like, oh, apparently I might like Dwayne Eskridge more than most, but he still wasn't really someone that was that exciting. I mean, he's really old. He's 24, so that's not necessarily like the rookie profile that you're just out there trying to scoop up as the late breakout 24-year-old. But he is in a very good situation. He's really fast. Seems like the clear wide receiver 3 in a Russell Wilson offense. And we've seen how Russell Wilson handles another undersized but fast receiver in Lockett. In no way is Eskridge Lockett, but I just think that there could be something there where it's really just Metcalf and Lockett. And if you have an injury to either of those guys, Eskridge is playing every snap. Even if there's no injuries, he's going to be playing a decent amount of snaps. We saw David Moore be kind of useful for fantasy last year. So he's someone that I think at least is interesting, where he got taken way earlier than a lot of people, myself included, expected, kind of like middle round 2. So I think there's probably something there with Eskridge. So I think he's kind of like the one guy I'd add where he seemed like he could be a big riser and at least be one of the more productive rookies this season.
Yep, makes sense.
And was there anybody that JD or Dan that you were really excited about the landing spot, and maybe that made you look at them in a more favorable light?
I think just Michael Carter. He's kind of a weird one. I still don't necessarily think he's I don't know how we haven't mentioned him yet, but he's a weird one just because pre-draft, none of the four of us would have said, oh yeah, that's a feature back. And now post-draft, you can sort of squint and see him being the feature back potentially with the Jets. I still don't think it's going to happen. We didn't really see it in college, but I think he and Ty Johnson or Tevin Coleman, some type of combination there could be interesting. I don't think Zach Wilson's necessarily going to be a great NFL quarterback, but he's young. We don't really know. This could be a decent offense. There's some good pass catchers there. The offensive line is starting to get built up. So, I mean, we could see Michael Carter, like 160, 170 carries, like 10 carries a game and 3 catches a game. I don't know. That's kind of interesting for fantasy. So I think he's one where whatever you think about him, this is such a wide open depth chart. And there's Michael Carter, 4th round. They grabbed him.
Yeah, like this part of the draft, you're looking at opportunity, right? You're trying to see who's got the clearest path, if that's even for these rookies that are in the beginning. You're like, talent trumps all. You're going to take them. If that path is a little shadier, but when you get to this range, and we were talking in the DMs, I feel like he might become a reach in a lot of spots where people are looking for running back. It's a rookie draft and they're looking for a guy that's going to get volume. So is Carter going to give them what they're expecting? And that's always kind of, decides, did you get your value when you took him in the rookie draft? So only time will tell, right?
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing is he was able to hold his own against Javonte Williams in the North Carolina offense, so that says something at least, that they continued to use him, as a runner as well.
8 yards per carry too wasn't a joke,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And, one of the ones that I thought was an interesting landing spot, I thought the market was getting real frothy on Trey Sermon before the draft. Of course, Waldman came out and says, here's my RB1, for the whole class. And, you can do with that whatever you will. But Waldman's got a big following. And, that was definitely pushing Sermon up in best balls and also, maiden drafts for dynasties just before the NFL draft. So he was somebody that I was thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be a guy, if he ends up, 4th or 5th round draft capital and kind of a crappy landing spot, he's, there's going to be a lot of unhappy people. And then he ends up in San Francisco of all places. So with that, do you guys think that is the juice worth the squeeze on Sermon, or is he still going uncomfortably high?
For me, he's probably going to end up going too high. I mean, we had this conversation for a couple weeks now where he was a guy, weeks and weeks back, a guy I really wanted to target with like the 205. And now, he's going off the board in some of these rookie drafts, like 106, 107. People are head over heels about this landing spot, and it's still a difficult backfield to crack. They have so many guys there. You got to figure Mostert and Wilson. They bring in Wayne Gallman, and he's certainly got an opportunity and I think if he is able to win the job, I think he's going to have a couple of running back 2 weeks at least. But there's just so many question marks there. It's probably not for me if the capital is that if the draft capital is that high in rookie drafts.
Yeah, the way I look at it is if I'm in a rookie draft and the best player available is Trey Sermon at like the 111 or something, or 110 and one quarterback, just trade that pick. You can just straight up trade your 2021 first for a 2022 second or a 2022 first and say, you know what? This could be a high first. This could be a low first. It doesn't matter. Do you really want the golden egg of your rookie draft to be Trey Sermon? I don't really want that. Like, is that the big replenishment that you're going to inject your team with that's going to take you over the top? It's just really hard for me to see this year, next year being like, oh man, like so glad that I grabbed Trey Sermon in the first round of my draft, or in Superflex that I grabbed him early round 2. I just really hard for me to see that. I'm on team Jeff Wilson is good at football.
Yes.
He won me a lot of money last year with some late season heroics, and I expect him to do the same this year. He's just a really good player, and it seems like the San Francisco 49er running back career arc is that after Kyle Shanahan's seen you for like 4 years, he goes, you know what, you're familiar enough, you can get more touches. And I don't really understand why Sermon was necessarily why we're worshiping this landing spot, because one thing that every other running back on that roster has in common for the most part is they're really fast. And that's kind of like, I think it was in the 6th round, they took Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah.
He was just an athletic freak with like high 4.3 wheels, I want to say. That's more of the archetype. Yeah, that's more of the archetype of what they've been going for, where these guys have breakaway speed. And I just can't get excited about Trey Sermon. I mean, yes, the 3rd round draft capital is nice that he snuck into day 2, but for me at least, I'm trading out of that pick if at all possible.
And sorry, Dan, just to chime in, like you can't expect more than, again, I feel like we're expecting something that he's never done before. You know, if you're expecting him to be more than a committee guy, because you look at his, college dominator, he's 9th percentile, 11%. He's never had over 164 rush attempts, and that's a lot higher than his other seasons that are around the 115, 120-ish. So not a lot of volume overall. So to expect him to come into this offense and be the guy and run that offense on the ground, I think is a little unreasonable. Dan, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you guys excited about Ramondre Stevenson? Because that's who relegated him
right.
in college. So unless you're a big Ramondre Stevenson person, the case for Trey Sermon, there's just a lot of ways to slice and dice and get less excited about Sermon.
Yeah, for sure. And, to me, Sermon's one of those guys where unless he really pops quickly as a rookie, again, you're probably going to be able to get him cheaper, mid-season, late season, next off season. There are going to be better times to grab him, and rather than spending that high capital pick. At that point, there are still wide receivers that I would much rather take some swings at and then come back to Sermon. I mean, even Ramondre Stevenson, nobody's excited about him, and he's going into a Belichick backfield, which we all know that you got to be careful with drafting anybody that goes to New England and plays the running back position, because you never know what's going to happen. But the thing is, you also never know what's going to happen. I mean, so I like Stevenson at his draft capital a lot, because you're going to be able to get him like as a 3rd rounder, maybe even a 4th rounder in some leagues. And Sermon, you're having to pay that 1st round price tag on. So I'd much rather, if I'm going to be gambling on somebody like that, I'll go with Stevenson myself.
All right, we got one more question for the Dynasty War Room here that we kind of created just to help our listeners, the listeners, the watchers, just get ready for the rookie drafts, right? I mean, these are important picks, guys. You've made moves to get into these picks, or you've got these picks and you've studied. This is huge for your Dynasty team, so we want to make sure you guys are ready. And Dan, let's do a quick plug for our partners. I mean, this show is brought to you at the end of the day by the FFPC. They're our big supporters, and they got a lot going on right now. So anyone on the FFPC already, Dan, remind me, are all the rookie drafts, do they all start at the same time?
Yeah, not exactly the same time. They all start on Saturday.
Okay. Same
day. Yeah, so they'll all start on Saturday, but they just stagger the start times just to, ease the load on the servers a little bit. So if you can get all your league mates together and say, hey, we want to go early, they will let you go early. So we have one league that we're working on that. Yeah. Shout out to Nina Nation. Come on, man. We have 11 people who've chimed in and one person that we're still waiting to chime in. But yeah, it's fun to get those drafts going early too. Just because you can get out ahead of the ADP, unless you're one of those people who really needs that ADP to follow. It's a lot more fun to be out in front of it and grabbing your guys before things set up and it becomes obvious where you might need to take them. So definitely love that part of the FFPC.
Plus, you get to set the tone, man. You get to be ADP. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
ADP setters. Yep.
Exactly. So, guys, if you're, like I said, if you're in Dynasty on the FFPC, make sure you've got that in your calendar. You're ready to go. You're ready to rock. You've got all your picks. If you're not, make sure you go sign up. DM me on Twitterland. I'll hook you up with a sweet link to get a nice bonus from our friends at the FFPC. Nice $35 action. They've got tournaments right now for $500,000. They've got best balls in all, like from $5 all the way up to, I believe, like $12.50, something like that. Something nice with 4 digits. Dan's shaking his head, so I'm right. See, I don't play in the nosebleeds yet. Not there yet. Not for best ball, anyways. And then of course the Dynasty leagues are filling up quick. Look, everything here, guys. Every format they have live, they have slow, they have every kind of format you could think of: slim, long, thick, large. They've got it. So go check out myffpc.com. for the best site to play fantasy football. Tight end premium. Otherwise, it's pretty much all over the place, giving you a nice variety. Guys, the last question, and Theo, you can add anything in this. Dan, you can add anything in this. But the last, we're using a show sheet, guys. We haven't used one in a while, so let's stick to the question here. And there's one with veterans. Like, who do you think, Josh, looking at the outcome from this draft, who are veterans? Like, whether they're guys coming into their second year that you're looking to take a major step in 2021, whether it based from the rookie draft or even, kind of separately. You're on mute.
Oh my goodness. The Cardinal sin. So I think the 2 running backs that I'm most excited about, where I feel like they kind of flashed in fleeting doses last year, were DeAndre Swift and Antonio Gibson. These are 2 guys that I do expect to get a lot more touches. With Swift, I expect him to get way more rushing work. And then if he sees any kind of bump in the receiving game, like, oh boy, he already had 3.5 catches a game on average. And remember, he played so sparingly for the first 4 or 5 games of the season that really this was propped up by his massive final 6 or 7 games of the year, where he was getting 4 to 5 catches every single game. So I would love to see him getting 12 to 15 carries, 4 catches a game. He could really just explode. And then the other one, Gibson. What were the concerns with Gibson? This is a guy with 33 career college carries. And you know what? He's a pretty damn good between the tackles runner. And I know everyone was like, oh man, but I thought he was a college receiver. We didn't see that. J.D. McKissic got all this work. You know what? Who do you think the Washington football team would rather have the ball in the hands of? McKissic, who looks like a normal person and is 5'9", 175, or Antonio Gibson, who is significantly faster than McKissic and also 6 foot 225. It's Antonio Gibson. We know he can catch the ball. I'm not sure why some people are afraid he's never going to be catching the ball. This is not a part of his profile that's up for debate. The guy had over 700 receiving yards in a college season. He's going to be just fine there. So I'm really excited to see him take potentially a small to medium step forward in the number of carries. And then I think he's going to take a pretty significant step forward with his pass game work. So on the running back end, those are my 2. And then, Laviska Shenault this is a tantalizing prospect. I think of him as more athletic A.J. Brown. And I know some people might say oh, what are you talking about? The guy ran a 4.58 when he needed groin muscle surgery or core muscle surgery. The day after he ran a 4.58, he got core muscle surgery and he got flown out to, I think it was Philadelphia, for some special clinic. This guy's an athletic freak, built like A.J. Brown. He's most likely faster than him. And he led the NFL in, I saw PFF posted something on Twitter a couple weeks back. He led the NFL in most missed tackles forced by a receiver, which was just crazy to see that. I'm assuming that he's at the top in our metrics at Player Profiler, but I just remember seeing that Twitter post and saying, oh, wow. Because, he looked incredibly elusive when ever watching him as a rookie, but this guy is just such a threat with the ball in his hands. And as I mentioned with ETN, I'm excited about this offense overall. So you could really see a pretty meteoric rise for Chenault in year 2. The guy had 700 total yards as a rookie while missing time. This is not a gadget player at this point. We've already established he's not Cordero Patterson. I'm excited for Chenault. So those are a few guys where I'm really bullish on. I'm trying to acquire them before they – I know there's hype trains on all of them, but still, I assure you that when these guys pop, the price goes way up. This is probably the cheapest you're going to get these guys for the next couple seasons. So act now. Yep, without a doubt. I'd definitely throw Clyde Edwards-Helaire in there as well. He's a guy that, he had a lot of bad touchdown luck last year. I mean, let's be honest. He got hauled down at the 1 yard line, 2 yard line several times. He had a few touchdowns called back on penalties, some of which were away from the ball. So it was just kind of a year where he probably could have had, half a dozen more touchdowns and pushed himself right up over 200 fantasy points. And, people wouldn't be saying, oh, he's a bust. Another year in the offense, having that, being that second year back, just that second year in the league does a lot for a lot of running backs because they know how to prepare, they know what they're facing, and, they're just more ready for the season. And, plus, being in the COVID preseason last year, which just really, I think, hampered, teams kind of getting everything together. Probably hurt him as well. So he's somebody I'm definitely looking to take a big step forward, and I think he probably can. Another one I'd throw out there is Michael Pittman. He was showing some signs of putting things together at the end of last year. He's got to integrate with a new quarterback now. So, there's, I don't think he's an absolute slam dunk or anything like that, but, he's in a nice spot in that team. And, he showed some good progression last year towards the end of the year. And, he was hurt for a while last year as well. So I think, there's a decent chance he could be putting things together. He's a guy I'd be looking to acquire on the cheap as well.
Theo, did you go? Yeah, go ahead.
I'll throw one guy out there. I know it's a guy that's been kind of beat up this offseason.
Don't take my guy. Do not take my guy.
I hope it's not your guy, but Jerry Jeudy had 113 targets last year, and people want to call him a bust. And I think there's some sort of everybody kind of presumes that Cortland Sutton's going to come back in and take over the number one role, and I think that might be the best guess. But I think it's more 60-40 than some slam dunk. I think Jeudy, the fact that he was that targeted, he had multiple double-digit target games. I think there's a chance that he takes a big leap and he's a lot more efficient in year 2. And, we're obviously not loving the quarterback situation over there, but he was far from a bust. I think that a lot of the problem was, Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb and Chase Claypool looked, and T. Higgins looked so good out of that class that it kind of the perception of Jerry Jeudy got pushed down. But to get 113 targets as a rookie, people need to be a little bit more excited about him, especially where he's going ADP wise. I know we did an early best ball and I got him incredibly late. It's kind of evened out a little bit now, but still he's going a little bit closer to the 10th round than he would the 5th round. So to me, he's a value among sophomore players in the NFL.
Yeah, I tweeted out a couple weeks ago, I can't stop stacking Sutton and Jeudy just because in best balls, because there's at such a nice value. Plus Rodgers is going there, guys. Let's just face it. Aaron Rodgers is going to be there. Bridgewater and what's his face going to be holding his water bottle while he's chucking it to the boys. So and a bit of Fant in there as well. I'm going to throw A-Rob in there, just finally getting a quarterback. I love me some A-Rob every year. The only problem now is after his new quarterback starts to shine, his price is going to pop up. So if you want to go get some A-Rob, I don't know if it's already gotten there now with the hype, and Michael Thomas, to me, that dude's going to be a target machine out there in New Orleans. Nothing brought in really to compete with him. It's basically him and AK with Winston launching the ball around. So I think, some nice volume, as we talked about, for MT, and maybe bringing him back in the upper echelons of the receivers as we in 2021.
Yeah, one thing I'll add actually to Michael Thomas that I discovered a few weeks ago. I podcasted a little bit about it. Codebreaker, number one in air yard share in the NFL last year was hobbled Michael Thomas.
Wow.
Believe it or not. This is not Slant Boy anymore. This is an alpha wide receiver who's getting the type of looks that you want to see on a team. So I'm very excited about Michael Thomas. If anything, his situation might have improved the past couple of years, where no longer is it noodle arm Drew Brees, where he's accurate, but I mean we saw what happened to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin with Jameis Winston.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unlikely Sean Payton lets DGAF Jameis Winston out to play, but there's still that possibility. And I mean, Michael Thomas could be the wide receiver one this year, and it wouldn't shock me. And it's a lot harder to make that case for some of the other receivers going where he's going. So that's what I like about Michael Thomas.
Saints defense is not going to be as good this year either, and that's going to put some more pressure on the offense to, we might see a little bit of DGAF Winston out there if the Saints are behind going into the fourth quarter. I mean, they might not have much choice. So, I love the Michael Thomas pick there, and you can just throw Traquan Smith right on in there with him. He's a guy I think that just was such a poor fit with Drew Brees, and he's super cheap, so he's a guy I'm just trying to scoop up for super cheap, get as a throw in for deals or whatever. I don't, if he doesn't fire, it's not going to hurt me at all. But, if he does fire to any extent whatsoever, he's somebody I can turn around and sell again for a pretty quick, nice profit.
There was one guy I wanted to ask Josh about, because I know that, Josh, you're a fan of his, and I know Dan is as well, but Myles Gaskin, your outlook for Gaskin this year. I know you're bullish on him.
Yeah, I'm excited about Gaskin. He looked really good, and he had bell cow treatment for pretty much every game last year. Mm-hmm. I remember there was the whole Gaskin versus Ahmed debate towards the end of the year, where it was like, oh, who's going to get the work when Gaskin comes back? So then he just put up 170 scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns in that game.
Yeah.
I mean,
yep.
Gaskin's the real deal. He got the kind of work that you want to see, where he's used a lot in the run game, but they're not just running him up the middle because this is a smaller back. And then he had pretty decent pass game involvement. So This is a guy, I've said it a few times the past week, get him in best ball drafts right now. You can get him late round 5, early round 6 still. And this is like a late 3rd, early 4th caliber running back talent in my mind, in terms of what you're going to be looking at, which is every single year of his career, when given the opportunity, he's crushed it. All 4 years in college, he was an absolute stud. They said, hey, we're going to see what we have in Myles Gaskin in 2020. It was not Jordan Howard. It was not Matt Breida. Gaskin's the real deal. So I'm really excited about him. And I don't quite understand why his price didn't immediately skyrocket post NFL draft. There's kind of this weird lag where I don't even know what it is. Like, who do people think the running back there is?
I don't know. I mean, I think everybody's kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. That they were so certain that Miami was going to add in the draft, and I don't know if they're thinking that they're going to trade for a running back, or who knows what, or maybe Lev Bell is going to come in and fall forward for 2.5 yards. I don't know, but I think Gaskin's a great. He's a great buy right now in Dynasty as well. I mean, I actually threw him out there on the block a couple of days ago in a league that I'm in with some pretty sharp guys, and I've gotten 0 nibbles on him, which really shocked me. So even some leagues with some pretty sharp guys, nobody's on Gaskin right now.
Yeah, I didn't jump on quick enough to Gaskin. I've got nothing right now in Dynasty, so I might go out fish, see if I can get him for cheap. We've got some questions for Josh here from a listener who sent this one. Johnny Guerrero at JMA Guerrero C. Josh Jacobs or the 103 in FFPC 1 QB?
Oh, the 103.
Anyone?
I mean, so let's just say that you want to replace Josh Jacobs, there's 3 running backs in this class that I already like more than him.
Okay.
And then there's also Jamar Chase. I mean, I would rather have Javonte Williams right now, straight up over Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs has Kenyon Drake there, who, for all intents and purposes, seems like he's there to take the passing game work, which is what you want for fantasy football. And then like Javonte Williams should be just the guy among guys once Melvin Gordon's gone next year. And I mean, Drake signed a pretty expensive 2-year deal. So you're not really, I don't think, unless Kenyon Drake gets injured, you're not seeing any kind of exciting fantasy output from Josh Jacobs, where he's in a mediocre offense. And what is he going to be? The grinder, getting 220 carries with his token 1 to 2 targets a game. Really hard for me to justify Jacobs over the 103.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Ballroom to basement, at ball to base. This is maybe like more of a rookie draft type of scenario. We talked about a lot of these guys at the 206 in Dynasty Superflex PPR. I guess he was at the clock asking between Carter, Tony, Rogers, and St. Brown. Josh, which one would you choose out of these 4 rookies?
I would take Carter.
Anyone disagree?
The year 1 production, running backs is scary.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's
a scarce position. Like,
guys.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. So he had 53%. The next one was Tony at 19.5. I'm going to
I find it hilarious kind of that we've been going for over an hour and we have yet to mention Kadarius Toney, and I'm somehow okay with that. So
yeah. Are you guys excited? I just can't get excited. I don't know. Am I alone? What's the deal? Josh, where are you on Tony?
So with Kadarius Toney, you're getting not an alpha wide receiver build, a guy that couldn't produce at all until he was a senior and older than his competition. And like, truly, I'm not a film guy, but like, you can just watch him and you can talk to film guys. This is a horrific route runner. Like, this is not the guy that you want in the NFL trying to get open. This is not a separator. Yes, he's great with the ball in his hands, but do you want to know what you have to do to get the ball in your hands unless you're getting a jet sweep? You have to get open. This is not a guy that got open. He was just banking on double-covered Kyle Pitts for a lot of his time there this past year when he broke out. And then also look at that depth chart. I mean, at least Galladay's there. Saquon's there. He gets some work. Maybe they cut or trade or something one of Ingram and Shepard, but then still like the other guys there. Slayton's probably going to get some type of work. It's really hard for me to justify him, at least as it currently stands, as the clear superior passing option over Galladay, Shepard, and Ingram. And then even Saquon Barkley. I mean, yeah, Tony's great with the ball in his hands, but I'd still rather dump the ball off to Saquon. So that's why, like, what is his role going to be?
Yeah, I mean, Go ahead, Theo.
No, Josh mentioned Cordell Patterson. This is the Cordero Patterson of this class.
But the small version.
Yeah.
The small version.
That haunt me forever at 104. I'll never forget Patterson at 104. Oh man, that hurt.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I can the guy was a quarterback for a while, and then he gets to Florida, and they had him play this running back wide receiver hybrid. And he didn't do anything till last season. He had a late breakout age, and I mean, athletically, he's great, but I think it's one of these guys where, they're gonna, he'll have a role on a football team, but fantasy wise, I don't see him ever really being a contributor. And I think that a lot of the draft capital you're going to have to spend to get Kadarius Toney, you might as well send an offer out for Curtis Samuel. Your league mate might take the 202 for Curtis Samuel, and that's your peak comparison for Toney. If everything works out, then he's Curtis Samuel, which I do not see happening. So you might as well, if somebody in your league wants to get him, trade that for a veteran. You'll get better return on your investment.
Shout out to Johnny Guerrero thanking us for. I'm sure he's thanking Josh, but we're gonna jump in and take a bit of credit with Josh here and thanking for the advice. guys, before we go to, I'm going to shoot some quick OTCs on the clock at you guys. But before we came on, I made a pretty big trade in Pigs 3, which, if people who are not familiar, Pigs 3 is a beast in its own. I mean, I've been in this league for a few years now. Scott Fish was generous enough to invite me in there. I think John Bosch actually got me in somehow. But just a bunch of savages in there. And you're basically left with a bankroll. And there are auctions, rookie auctions. There are like 3-4 auctions during the year. There's Devy auctions. But it's really hard to get a quarterback. It's super flex tight end premium. But there's 2 copies of each team. There's a bunch of teams. So it's just really hard to get kind of those prime position guys, including quarterbacks. So through my whole process and me finally getting myself a QB2 behind Mahomes and squeezing behind Jimmy G, or ahead of Jimmy G and Dalton, I picked up Rodgers. And I feel like Rodgers, I just want to get all 3 of your thoughts on this before we, I know we're talking rookies, but I feel like Superflex is huge right now. And I love finding, we all know it's hard to get the quarterback in Superflex. I look at everyone's rankings right now. Rodgers is just down, arrows are down, and I get it. But I just feel like there's 2 options. He's either going to play in Green Bay or he's not. And the Rodgers that doesn't play in Green Bay, I like even more because he's going to be pissed. And he's going to want to look. He's going to pull a Brady, in my opinion. Maybe he goes to Denver. Maybe he goes to somewhere like that. But let me know what your thoughts are on Josh. I'll go to you first as our guest on the Rodgers situation, whatever you have to put in there. And is he a buy in Superflex, or is he someone you're just, you know what, you're going to let this play out and then you'll figure out your approach?
So what I like about Rodgers is that in Superflex, you don't want your quarterback to tank a season. And yes, I know there's the chance he sits out. I really don't think he sits out. I mean, this is a hyper 100th percentile competitor. Is he really going to be satisfied hosting Jeopardy?
To customize your car insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Can you guys hear that? Or was that me?
No, that was me. I had something all of a sudden came on, so I'm like,
I got worried I had a pop-up or something.
No, that was me.
What I like about Rodgers is that you know what you're getting with him, and he's going to be good. And nothing really tanks a team more than the quarterback that gets benched midseason or something. Like Carson Wentz was just so detrimental to all the Superflex teams last year, and you're not getting that with Rodgers. And you're not going to get that for 2, 3, maybe 4 seasons. So that's what I like about him, is that so much can change in a league in 2 to 3 years. And he's going to be playing in the NFL most likely during that time. And anytime and assuming he's in the NFL, this is going to be an above average starting quarterback. So I do like him as a kind of a sneaky buy, especially now that there's this uncertainty that the 100th percentile competitor is just going to phone it in for Jeopardy. What?
Yeah.
You think he's going to be satisfied taking walks on the beach with Shailene Woodley at 2 miles an hour while he watches other people playing football and watches Jordan Love out there? I cannot see that happening. So yeah, I like him as a buy, especially with this supposed uncertainty that he's quitting football and retiring out of spite. I don't see it.
Yeah, I feel the same. You guys feel any different, Theo?
No, I think it's great that you got Rodgers, and I think it's a joke that people think he'll walk away from the game, especially when he, sees himself as one of the greats, which he is, and we see what Tom Brady is doing. I think Rodgers wants to play well into his 40s. I think that if he does move on, he's going to go to a team that's going to invest a lot in him. I think he's going to return quarterback 1 value to you for a long time. We all saw what he could do last season with Devontae Adams and the miracles at wide receiver. It's going to be a little bit better situation no matter where he goes. So I think it's going to work out in Green Bay. I think he's going to play week 1 in Green Bay, and I think that something might happen with the GM. It sounds like there might be a little bit of smoke with that. But I cannot see a scenario where Rodgers does not play week 1 in the NFL. I think it's not going to happen.
In case you weren't catching that was Greg Kinband, My Love's in Jeopardy.
There you go.
Dan's trying to replace my broken down soundboard tonight.
That's right. I'm doing the best I can with YouTube and a smartphone. So
Nice.
We do what we can.
All right. Before we do a quick OTC and close this bad boy out, we got to give our friends at Viridian Global. Shout out to my boy Will Harris at It's Harris Time for sending me this bad boy. I ordered online. He thought it was gonna take too long, so he hooked it up for me. But he hasn't been feeling that great the last few days, so we want to give him some good thoughts and hoping that he recuperates real quick. But guys, Viridian Global, no matter who you're listening to out there in podcast land, their brand gear is most likely on there. We're on there. They're comfortable. They've got good stuff. It fits awesome. The quality is high end. We got t-shirts, hats, hoodies, toques, you name it, we got it. And other football stuff. If you go get yourself a nice goat tee, maybe you pair it up with a little Gibby action. After hearing Josh talk about Gibson, they have a nice guitar pick with the Gibby and the logo on there, and they got a bunch of those. So go check them out, Viridian Global. We're at Viridian Global /collections/Goat District for all your goat gear. We appreciate any support there. Guys, quick OTC. Josh, Lawrence or Hurts?
Is this super flex or one quarterback?
We'll go super flex.
Lawrence. You always want to go with the safety. He's going to be a starter 5 years from now. Not sure about Hurts.
That's a very easy and simple. Can't argue with that, Theo.
No.
It's Lawrence. It has to be. I mean, Philadelphia has not made any long-term commitment, and Jacksonville just used the number one pick on the best prospect since Luck. So you got to go Lawrence.
Dan, I'll go to Josh last on this one. Etienne or Kamara?
I knew you were going to hit me on this one. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you're absolutely won this year, it's got to be Kamara. Otherwise, I'm going Etienne because I think he's got everything he needs going for him, and Kamara is going to be Kamara is crusting right now on his career, and Etienne is just getting started. So if you're win now, Kamara. Otherwise, give me Etienne.
I hope nobody ever describes me as crusting on my on anything.
Crusting. That's with an E, not with a U. Crust, not crust.
You're past the age apex, JD. You're past the age.
I'm well aware of that. I feel
you started the long, slow slide.
There you go.
Where are you at on the running backs?
If I was a slam dunk to win the championship this year, I'm taking Kamara. If not, I'm Etienne every time. In a dynasty startup, I'm probably going Etienne. But in a league, like Dan said, I'll just agree with Dan on that one. I think you got to go with the age. Kamara is entering the dangerous age apex. I think his game translates a little bit better than some of these backs in terms of a guy who could hold a value as a receiver. But once it starts to fall off, it falls off for these running back ones. And Etienne should have several very strong seasons.
Josh, you hanging with your rookie 101 or are you going to AK?
I'm going Etienne, and I'd say even in win now mode, I'm probably still going Etienne just because I don't think he's going to get that outproduced this year. I mean, you could make the case that they have similar-ish continuity even because Kamara is going to have a totally different quarterback. The offense is going to look way different. And yeah, Etienne's transitioned to the NFL, but at least he has his college quarterback. So there's going to be that familiarity where the guy that he's lining up behind is someone that he knows he can trust. So I do expect Kamara to outscore Etienne, but it could be pretty close. And then with Etienne, you're going to get another 4, 5, 6 years after this. Kamara, you might just get 2022. Maybe you get 2023. It's just, we're never sure with these running backs once they hit 26, 27. So yeah, I would just take Etienne no matter what, honestly.
Yeah, I say it often. It's the one position I'm an admitted ageist at is running back. It's so hard for me to draft in a startup any running back over 25. Including Kamara, who you guys know over the last 2-3 years has been my 101, and I love him dearly. But I got to go Etienne here. One more quick one. Just you might as well hit the receivers. Josh, do you like Chase or Ridley better?
I'll take Jamar Chase. Ridley is great. He was great last year, but this has been a guy that's been running really pure with touchdowns year after year. And maybe that's just who he is, but I get worried banking on the players that are consistently scoring an above average amount of touchdowns. And also, yes, he was incredible without Julio. So it's great that he could be an alpha, but I mean, Julio's back this year. They added Pitts. It's a little bit murky as to exactly how many targets this guy's going to get. And we potentially saw the high water mark last year with him. So I'll take Chase, who I think is 6 years younger. So that's a pretty big difference right there.
Yeah.
So I'll take the younger guy who's just the slam dunk best prospect in the past few seasons over Ridley.
Theo, I got to go to Dan last on this one because I know he loves himself some Ridley.
I think this is a great question, and actually Chase and Ridley are going very, very close to one another in Dynasty startups right now. I got to go Chase. I think he's a slam dunk wide receiver one for many years, and I think that he's going to get 125 targets off the top this year. I think his ascent will be pretty quick. I love Ridley, but the age difference and also the fact that I'm a big believer in Chase. I think it's going to be a nice fun ride for him in Cincinnati.
Dan.
Yeah, I mean, Ridley's won me a lot of money over the years, so it's tough to say no to Ridley. But it's got to be Chase at this point. Part of staying on top is knowing when to change horses, and right now is about the time if you had that conundrum in front of you to change horses.
All right, there you have it. Josh, this has been a blast. We surprisingly enough, Dan, we actually kept it within the time, which I'm very impressed because we haven't done that in a while. So at J Larky tweets, anything else you want to share or promote or tell the people before we close this out, my friend? We appreciate you tonight.
No, you nailed it. You can find me on Twitter, playerprofiler.com. You can check out our offerings. Dynasty Deluxe just launched, so it's an incredible way to immerse yourself in the way that we view Dynasty at Player Profiler. You can see the assigned lifetime values that we have for every single player. And we've got a lot of really cool stuff coming over summer. A lot of we're going to be launching towards the end of summer, so you can keep it locked and loaded on Twitter. You'll get everything from my funny takes to my serious takes. So you'll get all of my range of personality there. So that's probably the best place to see it all.
And we appreciate all of them tonight for sure. And we appreciate you, Josh, and hopefully we can get you back and maybe dive a little deeper into some of that coding that you do out there in the Roto underworld.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks for having me. I was super excited to be able to come on this one. I know you made it seem in the beginning like Theo was wrangling me and like reaching into the depths to like pull me out, but yeah, when Theo was like, "Oh, do you want to go on?" I was like, "Oh yeah, when's the date? Let's do this." So
nice.
I don't get excited about every guest spot. This one I was definitely very excited about. So yeah, this was a blast. Thanks for having me on, you guys.
That is flattering to hear, and we appreciate that for sure.
Absolutely.
Yo, man, you've been doing some really great work. Remind the people where they can find you. You've been helping us get some awesome guests, but you also put out a lot of goodness for Fantasyland. So just remind them once again.
So you can find my writing at Player Profiler and Breakout Finder. I'm doing the waiver wire columns here on Player Profiler, which I'm very excited about, and I'm doing a couple of the team previews. Podcast-wise, you can find me here on the GOAT District. I have my Tri-Flexing pod I'm doing with Andrew Schellenberg. We've done part 1 and part 2 of our 1250 startup draft. It's been an awesome process. It's a great new format. I encourage anybody looking for a new Dynasty format to check out the Tri-Flexes. And we have part 3 coming up sometime over the next few days. And on Twitter, I'm the OD Fantasy. You can find me on Twitter. And this was a blast. This was great talking to Josh tonight. And I'm super stoked going into the NFL draft. This was really, the rookie drafts. This really got me fired up.
Dan, we got a bunch that we're going through together in the next few weeks. We've done one or two, or we've done one now. Remind the people where your goodness is at and anything else you want to tell them before we close this out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of funny because JD and I, we co-own several teams, and then of course we have our own little stables of teams as well. And it seems like all the teams that we co-own are the ones that are drafting right now. So it's and then we get into the ones where we kind of split off. So we're doing all of our drafting together right now, and then we gotta go our separate ways. But yeah, absolutely. This is such a fun time of year with the rookies coming in, and I just love any time that the NFL's values are really starting to change a lot, because that's when there's advantages that are available. Some of them only for a short time, where you see those player values changing. And if you can be the one to envision what's going to happen first and be right about it, you can lock in some profits right now. So this is a great time of year to be involved and be paying attention with football. If you're looking for me on Twitter, I mean, I have not been tweeting much lately. Life has been kind of kicking my ass, but I'm still out there watching a lot, and every now and then stepping in on a conversation or two. But anytime if you have any questions or anything you want to ask, feel free to hit me up, DM me, or just ask me straight out on the streets, or whatever you want to do. I'll be more than happy to help you out, or if I can't, I can direct you to somebody who probably can. So at Overhyped Sweeper, drop the final E.
For sure, man. Check him out. He's Dan, he's Theo, and like Theo said, check out those RotoViz TriFlex leagues out there on FFPC, and check out TriFlexin, because Theo and Andrew are putting up some really good strategy info out there for something that I don't think necessarily the info has caught up to the popularity of the actual league. So you guys are a bit ahead of the game there. So check that out, guys. Josh, this has been a blast, man. It was just yes, a great overall conversation. One of my favorite shows for sure. And guys, just a little quick tip is pay attention to your league DMs. One thing I didn't mention about that Rodgers trade earlier, I caught that literally. The owner mentioned that he needed more money to go make a bid on Trevor Lawrence out in the auction, the rookie auction. And to me, that was like, go check out who he's got at quarterback and send him some offers. So something small like that can, really propel your team. The littlest thing, you got to pay attention to all the little details, get the edges where you can. We're trying to give you that edge on a weekly basis. Hopefully you got it tonight. Thanks to our partners, the FFPC, myffpc.com, Viridian Global, our Dynasty Depot. Guys, if you're on the FFPC playing Dynasty, you can wheel and deal, buy, sell, draft and sell, flip, anything you want with these FFPC rosters. Subscribe, like the goodness we drop on this channel. We'll check you next week. We got even more goodness coming up this month of May. Stay safe, be happy, and we'll check you all as we say later.
Go district, the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.